Paisley Charity Cup or something, which they used to play prior to the season starting, and St Mirren played Manchester City. I had not long joined City, so it was nice to go back up to Scotland and play at Love Street. I mean, I wasn't a great St Mirren supporter because coming from Aberdeen, you know, I mean, an Aberdeen supporter, but I do remember them winning the Scottish Cup, which I think was the year before in 1959. So it was nice, and it's lovely to see. It was nice to see a club like St Mirren win the cup. There was Jerry Baker, who of course came to Manchester City, I think the following year. He was small, he was a busy player, he was very sharp, he was a bubbly character, and scored a few goals for Man City, and really had an excellent time down here in England. But smashing player.
2 years later, St Mirren, without the assistance of Jerry Baker, again reached the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, and again their opponents were Celtic.
In Celtic goal, Happy only half cleared. Fergie scored, 1 for St Mirren. In centre for St Mirren, Kerrigan took a perfect pass, beat Happy, and that was the Saints' second goal. Only 1 minute later, outside left Beck sent a great shot between two defenders. Goal number 3. The Saints were 3 up when play began the second half, not the sort of thing Celtic are used to. Fed up with the way the game was going, hundreds of supporters swarmed onto the field. For a few minutes, it looked like South American politics. Thousands had gone home thinking the match was all over. What an error of judgment, for in the last 5 minutes, Burns scored 1 for Celtic.
So it was back to Hampden for St Mirren versus Rangers. The captains tossing up, Jim Clooney for St Mirren, Eric Caldo for Rangers, Tiny Wharton dwarfing them both.
And a narrow escape for Rangers. Goalkeeper Ritchie and Kerrigan collide heavily. Macmillan again finds Williamson in terrific form. And as the ball is centred, inside right, Ralph Brand is up there and manages to bundle it into the net. Rangers leading 1-0 at half-time. Rangers storm in again. Davy Wilson in possession. He shoots, and it's goal number 2 for Rangers. And that was all. The game was over.
The team went into decline despite the jazzy strip. George McLean, second from the right in the front row, made the short journey to Ibrox. His teammate at Love Street, the Icelander Thorolf Beck, would shortly follow. One player who would arrive was the talented inside forward Archie Gemmell, and he would make his own piece of history by being the first ever official substitute in Scottish football, but not even the young Archie could keep Saints in the First Division. They were relegated in 1967, and at that time the great-hearted Cockles Wilson decided that enough was enough. With his going went the last link with the marvellous Cup final side of 1959. Saints didn't linger in the second division, they bounced back at the first time of asking, scoring 100 goals in the process, with Peter Kane getting 22 of them. By no means a one-man band, because Saints had such fine players as Jim Blair, Willie Fulton, Bobby Adamson and Cammy Murray, who was a stalwart at Love Street for 10 years. When Saints regained the First Division, they took it by storm. Managed by Alec Wright, they were the only undefeated side in the country after 10 matches, and they made it 11 when the mighty Rangers came calling at Love Street. In a 1-0 win on a flint-hard pitch, Hugh Gilshan got the goal that mattered. But form slumped, and at the end of the season the best they could do was to finish a modest 11th. With a worsening league position, Wilson Humphreys took over from Alec Wright. He looked to younger players as the club's saviours.
Well, I think it's Wilson Humphreys I've got to thank for any progress that I made in senior football. Alec Wright, we were part-time under Alec Wright, and he was an excitable character, to say the least. But Wilson Humphreys came and gave me a lot of confidence in my own ability. I wanted full-time football, so he said, you can have full-time football, but I was the only full-time footballer at Love Street. So there's just myself and Wilson Humphreys working together on a daily basis, and it was his coaching and his encouragement that I felt, as I said, helped me progress to bigger things. Tommy Bryceland came along then. For me personally, it was a big blow to lose Wilson Humphreys. Obviously, I had great faith in him. And Tommy Bryceland came from, I think it was Norwich City at the time, as player manager. Probably Tommy Bryceland's best days as a player were over, but obviously had a bit of a reputation in Paisley, and I was certainly looking forward to working for him. But circumstances at the time, it looked was beginning to be a bit of transfer speculation surrounding myself, and really, I never really got to know Tommy Bryceland that well. But I don't think there was any doubt, speaking to St Mirren fans, it was a smashing player for St Mirren. But I was more or less on my way at the time.
Well, I was at Oldham at the time. I just moved there from Norwich and been there about a year and a half, and St Mirren came on the scene and watched me a few times and asked me back to Love Street. I signed there. Wilson Humphries was the manager, but the deal was actually conducted by a couple of directors. And then about a week later, Wilson Humphries resigned or whatever, and Alistair Miller got the job. He was acting manager for about 3 or 4 games, and then I don't know what happened, but Alistair left as well. So I was offered the job as player manager. So I took that on for about a year and a half or so. At the time, St Mirren were a wee bit financial problems, and the team, we had about 3 or 4 really good players, but quite a few not so good. But the bank manager was after some money, you know, so we had to actually sold Gordon McQueen to Leeds. Well, they actually stole him as it turned out, but I mean, they went there anyway. Sold Ian Munro to Hibs, sold Ali McLeod to Southampton, Jim Blair to Norwich, my old team. So at that time we'd sold about 4 good players because of the financial situation, and then it was a matter of rebuilding. It was going to be a long-term situation, which after about a year discovered wasn't working, so we kind of called it quits, and that was the end of the story, to put it politely.
In 1974, St Mirren slumped to their worst ever position, 11th in the second division, and manager Willie Cunningham decided to call it a day.
Now Willie was part-time manager, and he was part-time manager of a part-time team, and he felt that we had to have a youth policy, but he felt that he wasn't the man that would to do the job. So I was quite friendly with Willie, and I asked Willie, okay, you want to leave, that's fine, who will we get to replace you? And he thought for a minute, and he said, well, look, leave it just now, and I'll ring you later on tonight. And Willie phoned me, and the man he recommended to us was Alec Ferguson.
Something drastic needed to be done at St Mirren, and I set about it in my own way, and made decisions which, you know, maybe surprised some people, but it had to be done, you know.
Alec Ferguson saved St Mirren from obscurity. He got them the vital 6th spot, which made sure they would play First Division and not Second Division football after reorganisation. And by 1976, Saints were straining for the First Division Championship with an exciting young side.
Patrick there with Richardson. Sideways, and a great shot and a great goal. Billy Stark scores a cracker. It comes straight to Reid, and it must be 2, and it is.
We went unbeaten, I think. I can't remember the amount of games, I think it was something like 20 odd games, and 28 games or whatever, and we're still only maybe a point in front of Clydebank, so it shows you how tight the league was. And I think that the best games that year were against Clydebank.
Hislop versus Gallagher. And that's it. Richardson floating it up. Everybody misses it, but it's there. Hislop almost finding Stark. Fallon's clearance returned. Hislop coming in. Stark, McGarvey. McGarvey scores.
In November, Alec Ferguson completed the jigsaw. Convinced that Jackie Copeland was the answer, he persuaded the supporters club to put up the money for him.
Well, the first thing I noticed when I came back was after the discipline of Jim McLean's United team, which was excellent. I wouldn't knock it at all. I came down here, and here was this team of young guys, and it was so refreshing. And even the training games, everybody was wanting to show how they could play, and ability was to the fore, and it was wonderful. It was just completely new to me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I started to enjoy training more, and these guys wanted to play football. It wasn't drudgery. It was really something they wanted to do, and they transposed this onto the park, and they played great football, and it was so exciting. And Fergie felt that he wanted to maintain this, but he had to instill